Shalom, continuing. Drug-resistant infections are likely to dominate medical headlines in coming decades, with overuse of antibiotics in humans and farm animals leading to a bacterial infection that cannot be treated. Familiar procedures such as cesarean, cesarean sections and hip operations could one day become extremely risky. It's not a simple matter of discovering more drugs. The newest antibiotic currently on the market was discovered back in 1987. Antibiotics are expensive and difficult to develop, but most patients need to take them for only a week or two, which means pharmaceutical companies have increasingly focused their research on other drugs instead. Tackling resistance to antibiotics will therefore require better stewardship of existing treatments, which means changing populations, attitudes, and behaviors. Let me try and find something better to read on this. Okay, say bespoken medicine. This is the subtitle, page 56. Customized methods will become common in other areas of medicine too. In 2015, U.S. President Barack Obama launched the Precision Medicine Initiative. The aim was to develop treatment that accounted for a patient's genetic profile, environment, and lifestyle. Rather than taking a one-size-fits-all approach, it was part of a wider trend in medicine, which methods increasingly focused on the specific patient as well as their condition. Although procedures like blood transfusions already account for individual variation to some extent by considering blood type, these specific methods will use genome sequencing and other new techniques to make it easier to predict how certain treatments may affect certain patients. For example, some cancer drugs are effective only against tumors with specific genetic characteristics. Similarly, a cystic fibrosis drug called Ivancofort works for around 5% of patients with a certain genetic mutation. And, well, we already know that they mapped the whole genome, so because they say rather than just looking for specific genes, which eventually become common to examine the whole genomes, because they're trying to actually, like, they want to discover what every gene actually does and whatnot, because at the end of the day, they're, on the left hand side trying to seek immortality too. We on the right hand trying to seek immortality by doing the law, statutes, by following the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High and following His ways. Doing the work, bringing out the truth. Doing our, everything that it consists of. While on the left hand side, Esau is trying to, discover it on the left hand side. That's why they're mapping out the genome. I'm trying to, like I said, because it's a whole bunch of different articles, but I'm trying to. Okay, this might be a better subtitle: A More Connected World. The structure of society will affect our health in other ways too. In 1970, only 2 urban areas have more than 10 million inhabitants: Tokyo and New York. Fast forward to 2017, there are 37 such megacities. Many people living in these cities do so in poverty, and this is likely to get worse in the coming years, which is a given. You know what I mean? But I can't see, Salaki, like, before I came into the truth, well, yeah, it was around the transitional period of me coming into the truth, you know what I mean? And I worked at this convention center, but the convention center I worked at, our city built like a health innovation center. So all like any kind of medical discoveries, like, or like when they was trying to legalize medical marijuana, they was having all the public forums and talks and whatnot at this convention center. Long story short, it was a statement made by one of the key speakers because Cleveland Clinic is located, of course, in Cleveland, and but the Cleveland Clinic is a world-renowned, worldwide hospital. You know what I mean? Because they supposed to pride themselves on some of the best doctors, best surgeons, and whatnot. Anyhow, I don't know who the specific individual was, but they were having like a banquet slash like because Cleveland Clinic actually stayed in the building. You know what I mean? And the building, like, to rent those conference rooms wasn't cheap. Cleveland Clinic stayed there, and they basically was some keynote speaker, and he made a statement about as far as we wouldn't be able to they didn't have enough resources and food to feed you know the population after like 2045 or 2050 or some shit like that. So like next 25, 30 years. So in actuality, you know, like they said, that's a true statement. You know what I mean? It's gonna be the poverty the poverty is going to likely get worse in coming years. But we don't have that many more years. Nobody can put a time and a date on it because it's only reserved for the Most High to know the day of judgment. But the UN has estimated that up to 2 billion people could be living in slums by 2030. And that's why they want to reduce the population, because they cannot control, they're trying to control society. They're trying to be omnipotent, God-like, but they can't control these numbers. Infections like Ebola and dengue fever, I don't know what that, dengue, dengue fever can spread quickly in these impoverished and densely populated environments, which sometimes catch health agencies off guard. For decades, Ebola wasn't seen as a major health threat. It had caused 24 small outbreaks of hemorrhage fever in Central Africa, mostly in rural locations, but there was a little suggestion that it could ever cause an epidemic. Then in 2014, this same infection hit 3 cities in West Africa and behaved very differently. We may soon discover other such pathogens that struggle and stutter in rural locations but spread quickly in built up areas. And that's funny because, like I said, around the time I was going on my spiritual, walking my walking my straight narrow path. I met a female that was, because I think the first outbreak was in Texas, or that Ebola, and then I met this white lady. Well, I didn't meet her, but this white lady, she was a demon. She come back talking about she got Ebola, Large cities will bring other health risks as well. Research led by the U.S. Institute for Health Metrics and evaluations just suggest that over 5.5 million people die each year as a result of air pollution. Might as well skip around. Okay, we're gonna jump right into it because that was the last last little, I'm gonna jump into let's say chapter 5, genomics and genetic engineering. Arapti Prasad. Biology will be the next. Biology will be the leading science for the next 100 years. Freeman Dyson, 1996. Genetics is the study of DNA, of the short sections of DNA we call genes, and of all the things that control them. Genes are units of inheritance, the body's program files. They contain instructions code to be executed. Flanking the genes are other files of code that define when the gene should be operating and how hard it should work. For most genes, their code is read and translated into proteins, which are the building blocks of our tissues and organs, our hormones, antibiotics, and transportation systems in our cells, among other things. In this way, genes dictate an important part of our physical form, our health, and our potential. Genetic engineering is what we have called the manipulation of genes. This kind of manipulation has a long history. Low-tech fiddling with genes, aka selective breeding, has turned ears of maize and looked like grass flowers some 10,000 years ago to the succulent, closed quadric shape of the corn cob, and it has turned wolves into pugs. More recently, though, through laboratories, it has created plants that are factories for pharmaceutical drugs and produced a rice strain that carries a source of vitamin A. So, as you can hear, if you wrapping your brain around this is going into this man, this devil, this Edomite, actually fucking with, the genes of things. That's why you got a rice strain that can, and plants that produce pharmaceutical drugs. When in actuality, when we take time to think about that, the Most High are already produced, our medicine in the drugs. In the plants. Continuing. I can't find a scripture that I know. I think it's in Wisdom of Solomon when it says about how Moses gave medicines for healing. Herbs for healing or for medicine. It says genetic engineering is what we have called the manipulation of genes. This kind of manipulation has a long history. Low-tech fiddling with genes, aka selective breeding, has turned ears. I read that already. Slovakia. A critical produce a rice strain that carries a source of vitamin A, critical for our immune systems and our eyesight. I'm gonna stop there.